So there's been a lot of talk about Joe Biden and how bad a job he's doing on, well, everything. But Afghanistan is a whole new issue because I believe it adds an impeachable offense. Now, there's been a lot of, talk about this, but there's, mostly a talk of court-martial or various other military justice avenues based on this debacle to be filed against Biden. But I want to dispel some of those. Now, the premise of a lot of these online lawyers is that Biden had unlawful command influence, but he's the highest influence. He's the commander-in-chief. The other concern is about a court-martial. Well, being the president, he is the convening authority, so who would preside? So in this case, impeachment as outlined by the Constitution is the only avenue of any legal action here. So obviously, we as Republicans believe more in the rule of law and facts and evidence, so we would only impeach we wouldn't dare impeach someone over something dumb like, a phone call to a Ukraine asking if a predecessor broke the law. I mean, we wouldn't dare try to impeach someone for collusion unless we had evidence, right? I mean, the good thing about Democrats is, though, they have literally left the bar for impeachment on the floor. If Democrats taught us nothing, it's that you can impeach anyone for anything. But we would only do it if it actually had legal standing, which is why we are where we are. So if there's even one American left behind in Afghanistan, Republicans need to have the impeachment documents ready to roll. I'm serious about this. Dereliction of duty. He deliberately failed to keep our people safe. And we know from the release of this classified State Department cable that the White House knew this was a bad idea, and they withdraw. And Lindsey Graham agrees.
I think this is dereliction of duty at the highest level, and I think Joe Biden deserves to be impeached.
Whoa. Now, one of the last men standing insanity on the left, actually, is Newsmax analyst Alan Dershowitz. He's got a great new podcast, by the way, The Dearth Show. He joins as a professor emerite at Harvard Law School. His new book is Guilty by Accusation. So, Professor, I want to ask you, court-martial, it's out, right?
Absolutely. You can't court-martial the president. The president is convening authority. He is the commander-in-chief, and the commander-in-chief has the right to do the right thing or the wrong thing. The sanction against him is election. You vote against him in the next election. Mm-hmm. The impeachment is off the table, too, for at least Republicans. Republicans went to the mat saying you can't impeach somebody unless he commits treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. For the Democrats, impeachment seems like they could go forward and do it, but the Democrats won't do it. Right. There's a little bit of hypocrisy on both sides. I think we have to stick to principle, and the principle is to impeach a president, he has to commit a criminal type behavior akin to treason or bribery. And I don't think that abuse of authority or whatever Senator Lindsey Graham, who I like, said meets the standard for impeachable offense. I don't think so.
So even the idea, the notion of leaving your men behind in a war zone when you knew that the product of that decision could probably lead to the death of maybe Americans and definitely some of our Afghani interpreters and their families and things like that, you don't think that rises to a high crime misdemeanor or treason?
Well, no, it's not treason. Treason is defined in the Constitution, and it wouldn't meet the definition of treason. It's not bribery. What crime is it? It's not extortion. It's not. What's the crime? It's very bad policy, and it's a good reason for people who believe that this is what happened to vote against him or the Democrats in the next election. But it doesn't meet the constitutional criteria. It's like what the Democrats made as a ground for impeachment against President Trump: abuse of power. Abuse of power is a terrible thing, but 45 presidents have been accused of abuse of power. And so that's not a constitutionally permissible criteria, nor is, I think, what Senator Lindsey Graham said.
Yeah, and now let's say he is eligible for impeachment. The House does file it. Would you represent him, and what would be your argument?
I would represent him. I would be honored to represent him. I would argue the same argument I made on behalf of President Trump, that whatever you might think of what he did, it is not akin to treason and bribery. It's not a high crime and misdemeanor. It's not a statutory crime. It's not a common law crime. It's not something that has ever been a basis for impeachment under our Constitution. And I think I would win in the Senate as I won in the Senate for President Trump. I would apply exactly the same standards to Republicans and Democrats.
And that's why we have you on the show. Alan Dershowitz, we appreciate you being here, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.